Hello everyone, it's Ruin Purity again. In this video, I made a little drawing for extroversion and introversion, and in this way, it will help you guys understand this concept a lot easier. It will be a lot easier compared to as if you read the book by Carl Jung. The book Psychological Types, and he kind of was able to observe that extroversion and introversion is a mechanism that can be applied to all the different attributes. The book is fairly thick, as you can see. I'm only at the very beginning, but I'm going to read this very slowly, and I want to share all the things that I kind of learned and understand from this book step by step with all of you. The reason why I like to read very slowly is because I always have so much running thoughts that derives from what I'm reading, and because this is a fairly educational purpose book, it contains a lot of knowledge that needs to be digested and understood. And I usually love to read the preface when it comes to reading academic books, or even though in this book Carl Jung stated that it's not scientific. In my opinion, just because this book is not scientific does not mean that it's any less true, because a lot of scientific things that people consider facts are actually hypotheses and theories, and also out of the calculation with math, which is very ideal way of calculating and analysis. And life is not ideal. Life is chaotic and filled with imperfections. And this book is based on his observations, which probably is more useful in some cases. Just know that whatever you're reading is not going to be 100% true. And his method is, in a very broad sense, the patterns that he observed in people. This book is very heavily on analytical method that he figured out to help us understand and analyze either ourselves or other people. That's why it's considered as philosophy. And philosophy is essentially different methods of thinking. I think it's very coming from all of the things that he observed and studied throughout his years, and was able to find patterns between all the attributes of how our mind works, and from a perspective of individualism and the idea that everyone is different. Therefore, out of all the attributes that he have observed in people, everyone has a different predominant attribute. I know a lot of people consider him to be INFJ, and there are people that think he's not INFJ. But to me, it doesn't matter if he's INFJ or not. I can see similarities between the way I think and how he is coming up with all these ideas, and I kind of was able to dissect his ideas to things that are more modern and explanations that are easier to understand, because I think he wasn't very clear about considering the reader and if other people are able to understand what he's talking about. Apparently, Carl Jung went through a very similar childhood experiences as me. He was very much bad at studying early during his childhood, and he was always spaced out during class, and he would be very rebellious. And later in his years, he started reading a lot, and he had someone there to teach him, and he became very fascinated with myths and all the old texts on the history and religion, and he found I guess a pattern out of all of the things that he read, and a lot of the conclusions that he gets from all of those stories and mythology are very similar to mine. And when I read his book, I was really shocked as to how similar it is. It's like a lot of things that I kind of dreamt about and subconsciously know is being written on paper by him, and a lot of the things that he believes in are also very similar to my belief systems. The other thing very interesting I learned from the preface is that the translator of this book that translated his work from Swedish to English, he directly worked with Carl Jung to be able to translate this book and really execute his ideas and describe more accurately in English. And the idealism that I found very similar to mine is the fact that he thinks that in order to resolve our conflicts, we have conflicts within ourselves, and we have conflicts with the society, the things outside of us. And the order to resolve these conflicts is to first resolve our own conflicts within us, so that we understand ourselves more and know what we want and understand our desire, and then go into society to be able to make what we desire come true. Because if we try to solve conflicts with society first, we will have no sense of direction and no sense of individuality. And if you don't pay attention to who you are and the way you are and how you're supposed to work and function and study, it will be very confusing for you to try to solve conflict directly with society. The two most predominant attributes that society values the most is probably extroverted thinking and extroverted sensing. And let's say you are not someone with predominant attribute extroverted sensing, then when you are very energetic throughout the day, people will say that you're really lazy. And because if you don't learn about your differences as an individual, then you would go through your life and think that you are just weaker than other people, when in reality your strength is being buried right in front of your face. Therefore, it's important to learn about who you are and be able to be very clear on your strengths and weaknesses and use that to achieve your desire. Because if you understand your strengths and your weaknesses, you would waste less time on things that society bring up to you. Like the example I just gave, instead of wasting time thinking, oh my god, I'm physically so weak, you would think, oh, actually I'm good at this other attribute and I'm going to use this attribute and just execute my plan. And anything that comes later in society, the conflicts comes later in society, will be a much less roadblock for you, and things that will be easier for you to solve. And when you know your weaknesses, you would also be able to know how to make your weaknesses stronger. Because the area where I see people waste the most time is on self-doubt and self-criticism. And your strength, just because it's not praised by society, doesn't mean it's not very useful to society. And a lot of people, because they think they are not praised, then they automatically think of themselves as lesser than other people. Therefore, these people are least able to really tap into their strength. Even though a lot of successful people are these people who realize their strength, but a lot of people still stay undiscovered, and they're still thinking less of themselves. Okay, let's get right into extroversion and introversion. I interpret Carl Jung's idea of extroversion and introversion into direction of interest. There's two predominant directions. As you can see in this graph here, the extroverted person, their direction of interest mostly goes outwardly. The green arrow represents your interest taken outside of your body, and the pink arrow represents the interest that's taken inside of your body. And here you can see the graph for the introversion. These persons are more interested in their thoughts and how they feel inside their body. And there, the introversion and extroversion is that simple to understand. And let's apply to some examples. My husband is an INFP, and a lot of times I would ask him, okay, what's your opinion on this certain subject? And he would say, oh, because people think this and people think that, therefore this is what it means. And what most people think is the truth and the fact. And he would often disagree on my opinion based on how many people are saying if it's true. And he agrees with the fact that most people think is true. One of my friends is an ISTP, and I would often ask her, why are you able to have such a strong self-worth and self-realization no matter what you do? And she answered that what she is doing is not about her self-worth or anything. It's simply because she's more interested in her own thoughts no matter what she's doing. And that's very interesting because her predominant function is introverted thinking. A lot of times people would confuse me as an extroverted person simply because my second predominant function is extroverted feeling, and I often find myself wanting to get to know other people and empathize with other people and making everyone else around me happy. And every subject that I'm pretty much interested when I became an adult has to do with other people, like other people's opinion, how other people feel, and the collective feelings of other people. And ever since I was little, I've always been interested in other people and wanting to be other people's friend, even though I spend the majority of my time alone. In this way, it will be so much easier for you to understand the different cognitive functions and why people around you act a certain way. And a lot of times extroverted people and introverted people run into problems because introverted people, they spend most of their time interested in their thoughts, and if they have to be dragged out of something that they do that they're very used to, it's like using a muscle that they're not used to use. That's why being with extroverted people really drains them. And a lot of times introverted people's ideas seem to be brushed off by extroverted people simply because extroverted people are more interested in the outside environment and what's happening outside of them, and they don't have enough muscle to think about what they're thinking and how they feel. And a lot of times introverted people will feel bad when they're being brushed off and extroverted people will feel bad when the introverted person is so quiet. But it's really just a little misunderstanding. After watching this video, I hope you guys can be more understanding of each other and understand that we all have strengths and weaknesses, and understand that we all need each other to eventually become a more well-developed and whole person. I hope that was helpful. See you in the next video. If you would like to support me to make more videos, please watch this video or tell your friends to watch this video, or support me on Patreon. Thank you.